Is Nikon restricting the development and production of third-party lenses with autofocus for the Z-mount? Could Canon learn a lesson from what Nikon's doing? Or is this story inaccurate? Details coming up, but first, please do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe, choose all notifications, like, comment, and all that good stuff, as it really helps this channel grow. Canon raised the ire of its customers by preventing third-party lens makers like Sigma and Tamron by developing lenses with autofocus without their permission. And, well, they're not granting permission. But is Nikon doing the same thing? According to Nikon Rumours, Nikon's restricting third-party lens makers from making lenses for the Z-mount, but is doing it in a very smart way, which hasn't raised the anger of their customers. According to the story, if you want to produce lenses for the Nikon Z-mount, Sigma or Tamron or anybody else, you do need permission from Nikon, but there's a slight difference here. Nikon is granting permission. We can see we've got a whole bunch of Sigma lenses, so you can produce lenses, but the story's saying that, well, you can't produce the exact same focal lengths or ranges that, well, Nikon's doing. The article is light on details. It doesn't mention if, for example, like Canon, third-party lens makers can produce the same focal lengths as Nikon after a certain amount of time. Nor does it say if Nikon has given them a list of focal lengths that they can produce. There's some sort of governance structure in place if they need permission before producing each lens. So is this true? As I started scripting this, I got up at 4 o'clock this morning because I was so tired from pretty well a week of poor sleep that I went to bed at 7 o'clock in the afternoon, or evening. I guess, yes, it's evening, and it was dark here, so it was easy to fall asleep. So here I am up at 4 o'clock, and what I thought was, you know what? Let's see if this passes the smell test, because it seemed a little strange, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to take their word for it. A lot of stories these days, somebody will put something out, somebody else will reproduce it, put it out there without validating and checking it. And this is not hard to check. Well, the 24-70, one of the examples cited in the story, is a Nikon lens, a Nikkor lens. And so I went to check to see, and yeah, there wasn't a 24-70 produced by Sigma. They did have a 28-75. Coincidence? Perhaps not, but I didn't stop there. The story does go further, stating that this is not the case with manual focus lenses. Nikon can authorize the same focal lengths as already existing Nikkor Z models. For example, most of the Voigtlander Z lenses have the same Nikkor focal length equivalent. In a way, I feel like I'm ripping off the Y-Files in their approach to covering stories. In the first half of this video, I talked about the story, about what it means. And now for the reality check. This is the Sigma 20mm f1.4 GG HSM. It sells for $899. And this is the Nikon 20mm f1.8 S-Line. It sells for $1,049. This is the Sigma 35mm f1.4 DG HSM. It also sells for $899. And this is the Nikon 35mm f1.8 S-Line. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Simon, but wait a minute, are these lenses with manual focus or autofocus? Well, look right here. These are autofocus lenses. And you want another example? Well, this is the Sigma 50mm f1.4 DG HSM. My favorite focal length at all. I just love the 50mm. I'm shooting with it right now. And this Sigma lens, the 50mm, sells for $1049. And no surprises, Nikon has the exact same focal length, but at f1.2. And because it's wide open at fast at f1.2, it sells for $20.99. I mean, the story simply isn't true, or at least it's inaccurate at the very worst. There might be some restrictions on third-party lens makers. Maybe they can't produce the same focal lengths or primes or super telephotos until some months have passed, and that's certainly plausible, but the story doesn't say that. There could be other restrictions on third-party lens makers because we are seeing primes, but I didn't see any super telephotos or zooms, so maybe it's only on certain types of lenses. But either way, this story is inaccurate. It's filled with holes, and I was able to shoot enough holes through this story with just 3 prime lenses. But the real question here is, could Canon learn something from this? Could Canon grant permission for third-party lens makers like Sigma and Tamron to produce RF lenses, but have some sort of caveats in there, some sort of restrictions that, well, gets people not hating them anymore, gets more lenses out there, but has them stay away from some of their super telephotos, or has them stay away from certain prime lengths or other lenses or other restrictions? And yes, they could certainly do this. But going back to 2022, Canon could have taken a different approach. Imagine this. Canon issues a press statement saying that they've approved third-party lens development for Sigma and Tamron and anybody else. You must get licensed, and then as soon as you do, you're permitted to make lenses. If you don't get the license, if you don't get permission, well, then Canon will come down on you like a bag of wet hammers. And to coincide with the announcement, Sigma and Tamron have announced the development of these lenses, these prime lenses, a 50mm, 35mm, and the list goes on. Wow, what a coup that would have been. Can you imagine the excitement? Now, behind the scenes, unbeknownst to us, there's restrictions. You can't produce L-series lenses with these focal lengths. You can't produce these types of lenses, and you must wait at least 6 months after we've produced these lenses before you can produce your own equivalents. Simply put, Canon screwed up their messaging on this. They could have done things a little bit differently. But is it too late for Canon to learn from this? No, it isn't. Canon could very quickly come out in a matter of months and saying they've granted permission for Sigma and Tamron to produce lenses for the RF mount. They're now granting license for Sigma and Tamron and anybody else. And then behind the scenes have some caveats and restrictions that they're not allowed to talk about. And then the rest of us go like, wow, we're finally getting Sigma and Tamron lenses. It's kind of a win-win. It's a win-win for the third-party lens makers because they're able to produce popular lenses like a 50mm, 35mm at an f1.4 that's far cheaper than what we see on the f1.2 of $2,300. It's a win for us as consumers because now we have access to more affordable mid-level lenses. And of course, it's a win for Canon because they're not getting raked over the coals every time we talk about lenses with people getting upset. You see it in the comments, and I bet you anything, if you look at the comments in this story here, you're going to see a lot of people that are still angry over what Canon's doing. I do believe that this story from Nikon Rumours is largely false, but I do believe where there's smoke, there's fire. I believe there are some restrictions in place, but we just don't know what those are. This story is very light on details. So if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news and rumors, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps you and me, but also choose all notifications so that way as soon as I publish a new video, you can get notified by YouTube. And if you're interested in purchasing anything mentioned in this video here, please consider using my affiliate links for B&H and Amazon.com as I get 1 to 2% back, and it really helps support this channel. And I also suggest that you follow me on Twitter for all the latest news and rumors, even the tiny stuff that doesn't warrant me putting out a separate video. And later today, at lunchtime, I'm going off to, well, the city, to Markham, to pick up a new mic, a USB mic, a Shure mic. I'm going to be using this for live streaming because I get a sense that this coming week, I'm going to be doing a live streaming, and I want to do it with a quality microphone. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, and by the way, are you in Canada? Are you in the Northeast United States? Because it is cold out there. I went to bed last night. It was 1 degree Celsius. And I woke up this morning at -17. For those of you in the United States that are thinking, wow, that's got to be cold, it's 0 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's going all the way down to -27. Really, really cold. But I'm looking forward to this. And with a new microphone, I should be probably kept inside quite a bit playing around with that. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.